pet shop.
Correct.
You purchased them in order to create a habitat for them in your home. I don't know how large they were, but within a relatively short period of time, they got sick and died. You believe that Mr. Meyer is responsible for not only the turtles, but also for the substantial veterinary bills that you had in order to try to treat them for an illness that you say they had when you got them from him. Mr. Meyer says he offered you your money back when he found out that there was a problem, but he's certainly not responsible for these astronomical veterinary bills that were racked up as a result of your desire to treat the animals. How large were these turtles?
Between 4 and 5 inches length of the shell.
And how much did you pay for them?
$17.99 each.
Had you ever had turtles before?
Yes.
What happened to them?
I had them when I was about 10 years old, and I had caught them when I was at camp, and I kept them till I went to college, and then I gave them to the Turtleback Zoo, which was a nearby zoo where I lived in New Jersey.
And they survived?
Never had a problem, no illness, did beautifully.
Did you have had other pets other than turtles?
No.
Interesting. Tell me why.
I have a fascination with turtles for a few reasons. One, right now I find them inspiring because it helps me to slow down. They're very graceful in the water, but when they're on land, they're very slow, and they just seem very pensive. And I find them very inspiring. They live over 50 years, typically, these turtles. So I think for children, they're nice in that sense that you can really get to know them. And they do have different personalities. They're not all the same. They do take on individual personalities.
Explain that to me.
Well, part of the way we name them is the way they behave. Some are more friendly, some are a little more aggressive. They each take on a little different way about it.
You know, I'm an animal lover, so I don't want you to take this as meaning any disrespect. Sure. Are they smart?
Well, I have my veterinarian to attest the fact that they're certainly not dogs or cats, but they do, and certainly...
I mean, there's a certain survival instinct that all animals have, so in that regard, they can survive. They look for water, they look for food, so okay, but...
They've been around a lot more than we have on this earth. Millions of years.
So have roaches.
That's true. Good. You got me there. But I really believe, and I'm sure if you ask most turtle lovers, they'll agree that they do take on different personalities, and they definitely do have a higher thought process, not as high as a dog, but higher than a roach.
I know that I'll probably get lots of mail about this because there are people that love every creature. In any event, when did you purchase the turtles?
May 27th, Memorial Day weekend, 2006.
Is that correct, sir?
Yes.
And how many turtles did you have in your shop?
8 or 9.
When had you gotten them?
About a week and a half prior to that.
From whom?
It's from a distributor. They're animal distributors. This one in particular was a reptile distributor.
When was the first sign that there was something untoward with the turtles?
Every day after work, I came home and fed them, so they were doing fine until June 5th. I built a large 8 by 12-foot enclosure for them outside, plenty of room to swim and sunbathe, which sunbathing is very important for them. And on June 5th, I went out to feed them, and I saw one of them convulsing in the water. So I immediately took that turtle out of the water, and I tried to find the other turtles, and at the time, I could only find one other. So I took the one that was convulsing plus that turtle, put him in a box, and I tried to call Mr. Meyer, but I could not get a hold of him. But I knew I had to do something quickly, because I know that turtles, if they get sick, it's something is critically wrong.
How do you know that?
Because I know they have a slow metabolism. It takes a while for them to show a problem. And I had them for 7 years, and they never showed any illness. So something like this obviously looked like, I can't mimic the motion, but it was an obvious convulsion.
Okay.
It looked like a seizure almost. And so I scrambled to try to find a veterinarian in my area who specialized in reptiles, or hopefully turtles. And fortunately, everybody who I called referred me over to Dr. Burgess's office. That's Dr. Burgess there.
Step up, sir. Dr. Burgess, June 5th, receive a call from Dr. Schoenberg, who ultimately brings over the 2 turtles to you. What do you find?
Well, he sounded pretty urgently concerned, so we had him come in right away. And both turtles had problems. What struck me, however, was the one that he was concerned about, which was Sammy, looked seriously ill. And this turtle, on physical exam, the thing that I noticed mostly was how extremely weak he was. And these are really feisty little turtles. They're not weak animals. And this kid was pretty much flat out. That's the biggest thing that concerned me right off the top. On closer inspection, I noticed something that the average observer probably wouldn't notice, and that was there were a bunch of discolored areas on the underside of the shell, which is typical of shell rot. The average observer might just think that's a normal color pattern because they have kind of blotchy colors anyway. But I was suspicious that it didn't look right, so I grabbed a small metal probe and was probing these areas, and they were soft. So I knew that there was infection dissolving away the underlying bone and shell. The two things you want to know about shell rot is, number one, it's usually easily treated. But it can, if it goes on long enough, and the bacteria can, then they become septic and then they'll go down quick. They'll convulse, all their organs are infected, and you can actually lose some of those. The second thing about shell rot is you almost never see it unless the turtles are housed in improper situations. In fact, 95% of all reptile cases we see are poor husbandry related. Crowding, dirty water, too cool of temperatures, not enough ultraviolet light. There's a lot of ways that the turtles can be stressed and their immune system falters. Then they become prone to infections from things that a normal turtle would resist.
And how long does that process generally take?
As advanced as this case was, that takes weeks at least to occur, sometimes months. But to dissolve bone and shell away like that to that extent takes a while. And again, on the surface, they were very unimpressive lesions, easily overlooked. In fact, Eric, who was babying these turtles, didn't notice the lesions either until I pointed them out to him. It just is something you have to kind of know to look for. Doing it for 20 years, I knew to look for it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You got about 10 turtles from the wholesaler?
That's correct.
Now, you're under oath, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
How many?
Dr. Eric Schoenberg claims pet shop owner Robert Meyer is responsible for selling him 4 diseased turtles. Eric says 3 of his pets suffered an untimely death.
Now, let me ask you this question, Dr. Burgess. If you had seen these turtles, say, a week before, would they have shown similar signs?
Probably yes. As advanced as these were, there would have been lesions there a week earlier as well.
So they would have been visible to you, for instance, on the 28th of May.
Yes, they should have been.
Now, one of the turtles died when?
The sickest turtle, Sammy, died within 24 hours of us seeing it. I got it on antibiotics, but it just basically went down quick.
And the others?
He had a total of 4, one of which died at home. Of the other 2 that were alive after the first day, the second turtle died about 8 days after we started treating it. And again, this raised alarm bells because we have a high percentage of success rate even with advanced shell rot. And I knew he had them warm enough, he had them in good conditions, they should have been surviving. So we cultured the shell after the second one died and found out that they had 2 species of bacteria there, one of which was particularly difficult to treat. And we ended up having to do double antibiotic therapy for weeks to save the last one, and we actually did manage to save that one. We were using antibiotics by injection in all 4 legs because you can't inject the shell. And after weeks and weeks of double antibiotic injections, this turtle ended up, unfortunately, with severe damage to both front legs. So essentially, her right front leg is virtually useless. Her left front leg is partially paralyzed. So she's in need of special conditions just to pull herself out of the water. He had to build a ramp down in the water that's at a shallow angle because she can't pull herself out of the water to bask. She does have basically permanent damage, even though we healed the shell rot.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So, Dr. Schoenberg, when did you finally contact Mr. Mayer, and what did he say when you contacted him?
June 14th was the day the second one died.
Okay.
So it was that day that I finally made contact with him.
How many calls did you make to him?
It was probably about 5. I have the exact phone records.
Did you speak to anyone?
I spoke with a young woman there, and they said he's not around. I'll have him call you. Never a return call.
When was the first time you got a message from him, Mr. Mayer?
It was before the 14th. It was probably the 12th or the 13th. I was probably busy, and I don't know why I didn't get the phone message before the 12th.
When you got it on the 12th, did you call him right back?
I think I probably waited until the 14th and to get a hold of him.
When you sell an animal at your pet shop, Mr. Mayer, do you instruct people, please take the pet to a vet, have it checked out? You know, you give a money-back guarantee if something is wrong within 24 hours or 48 hours. Is that what you do?
We state that we have a 7-day health guarantee, depending, it's 7 to 14, depending on the type of animal. In this particular case, for reptiles, it's 7 days that we guarantee.
That says that?
No, I got nothing in writing about that.
I didn't give him anything in writing, but it's stated at the time of purchase.
Who states it?
The person selling the turtle. In that
Well,
case,
that's
it was
hearsay,
myself.
sir. What you're supposed to do is...
It was myself that sold the turtle to Mr. Schoenberg.
Did you tell him that there was a 7-day
Yes, I
health
did.
guarantee? You remember that?
Yes, I always say that. Whenever I sell an animal, I was the boss, and I employed teenagers, therefore I had to be very consistent with what I did.
But you are not there all the time.
That's correct.
And if you're not there all the time, that means that one of your teenage employees will be selling animals.
That's correct. But by setting precedents and by showing example with myself in the way I do it, and
What you have to do is put it in writing, Mr. Mayer.
I do have something that's filled out when somebody purchases an animal. In this case, it wasn't done, but in most cases it is.
You have to be consistent and done, Mr. Mayer.
That's correct.
So when you purchase an animal, and if you're giving a 7-day guarantee, then what you have to do is say, you have 7 days, take the animal to the vet, because that's where I'm going with my questions to the doctor, because he's already said that this situation would have presented itself had Mr. Schoenberg taken within 7 days the animals to a vet, had them checked out. He would have seen that there was something wrong with them. He would have had an option of returning them to you, and you would have given him his money back. Or if he chose to treat them, the vet bill's on him. But I think Mr. Mayor comes from the wholesaler, not from you, but from the wholesaler, and you sue the wholesaler. While we're on that subject, you got about 10 turtles from the wholesaler?
That's correct.
Are you under oath, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
How many of them survived?
After Berg got in touch with me, I put a freeze on selling any of the turtles.
What did you do with them?
Well, I stopped selling them.
What did you, Mr. Mayor, let's not mince words. What I know is, what did you do with the other 6 turtles?
I was my store at the end of June, and so I adopted the rest of the turtles out, but all of them were alive.
All of them were alive. Dr. Schoenberg, you called Mr. Mayor and told him that this was a problem with your turtles. Did he indicate to you any of the other turtles had a problem?
He didn't make any programs. I felt like I wanted to take care of them because it was an his animal. If they become ill, he prefers euthanasia treatment, even if the disease, as this one was, is completely treatable. Then
Correctly, that he stated that I should just his decision in my case that if the animal is going to cost $700 or $1,000, I can't say the turtles.
Dr. Schoenberg, Mr. Mayor says that he got these pets. Expert says that this to this point could sometimes take months. Is that right?
Occasionally months.
Well, Dr. Burgess, let's step up for one more second, sir. I'm going to pin you down.
Okay.
Sometimes it can take months. Sometimes it can take weeks.
Yes.
Could it take 1 week?
Not as advanced as this was.
When you saw the 4th turtle, was it ill? And you could tell right away.
From the shell, yes.
But when you saw the first turtle that outside, that there was a very bacteria that required.
Just at a glance, nobody can tell.
Dr. Schoenberg, you went to the pet store and saw the habitat where they live.
yes,
I must be a medically trained person. You could not purchase these turtles. Were the habitat conditions unclean, unsanitary, looking unhealthy? They looked fine to you.
they looked adequate to me.
No. Let's not play. They looked fine to you, or you would not have purchased them. And then this in the habitat. Come on. Now, I would assume that you could not tell when you took the turtle home, at least from 27th of May, according to you, until June 5th, that there was anything wrong with these turtles. Why do you ascribe something more to Mr. Meyer?
I have records here from animal control that show that there was a lot going on in his pet store. And if you would like to see those documents, I'd be happy to share them with you that show the kind of conditions that were there that perhaps I didn't see that day. I just focused on turtles, and I went right in.
I'm just interested in turtles.
Yes.
I'm not interested in whether he's a good husband, a bad father, a good son, a good nephew, whether he does other things. You saw the turtles.
Yes.
I mean, he didn't take the turtles out at night and put them in the toilet. He left them in the same conditions that you saw them in.
I don't know that
which were
because-
clean conditions. Well, he doesn't look like a nut. And would have taken them out of a clean condition and put them in a dirty condition. For what purpose? That sounds ridiculous. So let's see what we have, Dr. Schoenberg. We have a medically trained man, buys the turtles, looks as if they're being kept and maintained in a perfectly adequate habitat. You don't see anything wrong with them. No signs of illness. According to you, they were playful and they were eating, appeared perfectly normal. So